You ever encountered a relationship that started off great, then became good, then became okay, and then went to bad, right? If you've lived in life on this planet called Earth, you have to identify with what that is. But here's the truth. That's because every relationship in personal nature is going to go through three critical phases. Number one, the honeymoon phase. We'll talk more about that. You're going to go through the learning to fight fair phase. And then last but not least, where most of us never make it to, you arrive at the flourish phase. So let's understand exactly what is happening and what is not happening. So let's talk about the classic honeymoon phase. What's the honeymoon phase, right? Science has actually discovered that the honeymoon phase can only roughly last 2 years. This is where everything is beautiful, everything is perfect, this person is perfect, you've pretty much idealized who you think this person is. And then with enough mornings, with enough nights, with enough experiences, with enough circumstances, what happens? You figure out that this person ain't perfect. Well, no blankety blank blank. It's because this person is a human. In the same aspect that you are fundamentally flawed from day one, so is this individual. But the understanding that you have to realize is that it's okay. The honeymoon phase cannot last, nor should it, because that is the getting to know you phase of a relationship that ultimately is going to best help you to define relatively early, are we compatible? Now, let's quickly talk about compatibility before I get to the learning how to fight fair phase, which is where like 90% of all relationships terminate. And it's this. Number one, compatibility is huge. When I refer to compatibility, I'm referring to your motivational gifts, according to the book of Romans, right? We all have a gift that colors how we see the world. And the fact of it is compatibility can be seen relatively early when you're just honest, which is, how do our core values line up? How do our faith values line up? What is it we want for our lives? What is it we want for each other? What is the purpose of this relationship, right? Is where compatibility becomes critical, and you can't fake that, right? It should be a process where in general sense, your relationship is easy, where you just get each other. You just click. It really doesn't require a whole lot of effort, because what it means is that you must be equally yoked and perfectly aligned, like I said, as it relates to values and vision. But at the same point, the greatest relationships offer what is called polarity, meaning while we are exactly the same in maybe 50% of the ways, we're exact opposites in another capacity, meaning I like drums, you only like flats. We perfect wing partners. What we talking about, right? I know how to be clean, organized, make things simple. So do you. Living together, being in a hotel, that's simple, organic, and seamless. We don't have to work at that. And that's the way it should be. Now, once you've exhausted that 2-year period, this is where most relationships are lost. And a lot of times for good reasons, because you really weren't compatible to begin with. But again, let God decide that. You decide that. And it's this. Once you exhaust the honeymoon phase, now you are in the learning to fight fair phase. Let me say a couple of things about this phase. See, this is where we as kings, we're going to have to man all the way up. When you understand what your role is, it is your job, king, to lead the relationship. It is her job to be the lookout. That means that my 180 view, your 180 view, we can't be stopped. We see in a perfect 360. We able to cover the front, back to the front, so on and so forth, right? In saying all of that, though, with the learning how to fight fair phase, if you are not man enough to learn to lead and steward yourself, your woman, and the relationship, this is where it's over. What do I mean by that? Because learning how to lead effectively as the leader in your relationship is going to require that we have a lot of courageous conversations, because wisdom as a leader is I'm going to deal with small problems to prevent them from becoming big problems. And so that means we are going to have to learn how to walk through some things. That only happens through courageous conversation, because burying our head in the sand, acting like the problem doesn't exist, has never worked personally or professionally. However, what I'll say about myself in transparency is I can be an over communicator. So there are times where, yes, my thoughts need to be known, but I need to take a step back and give it to God, allow him to work on me, change me, because I can't change another person, in order for me to download and receive from the Lord what to do about this matter. Same thing for she, because a relationship is a compromise, meaning it's not all my way, it's not all your way. But here's the thing about compromising. I'm going to live and speak the truth, whatever the truth is, because truth is undefeated. But in that learning to fight fair phase, what science has also figured out about relationships, ironically enough, is that to reach a place where you flourish in a relationship, you have to have endured, they say, 1,000 arguments. Yeah. Now, let me say this about 1,000 arguments. I am not talking about where you're tearing each other apart. I'm not talking about where you putting your hands on each other. I ain't talking about where he punching through walls and doors and tearing up. I ain't talking about her keying your car and busting your windshield. Man, if that's the case, y'all toxic. That's toxic. Nothing good comes from that, because what that means is you don't have the mental maturity. You don't have the discipline to maintain frame, which means you can't be trusted at any point in the future, because it goes from hitting things to people in a matter of time. So I ain't talking about that. What I'm talking about in learning to fight fair is we may not understand each other. We may not agree with each other, but we need to at least hear each other out. We need to operate in with decency and respect towards each other. But learning how to fight fair is ultimately saying, okay, let me remove ego. Ego stands for edging God out, meaning this is what I think, this is what I feel, this is really what I want to say. And before my own ego and within my own pride, I feel like I need to fight or defend myself. That's when we're leaving God out of the equation. And see, here's the thing. While I understand these things very well, I'm not perfect. I'm learning to walk through these things in real time, because I understand that it's not about me being right. It's not about her being right. It's about being correct. It's about what is right and honorable as it pertains to God, ourselves, each other in the relationship. And so learning to fight fair is to understand that, okay, if I'm going to come at her, with the ABC meaning if I'm accusing, blaming, or criticizing, even though I might be well-intended, my impact is wrong. So you know what? That accusing, or blaming you or criticizing something, even if I feel like I'm right, even if the principle is right, but I come at the person wrong, it's completely ineffective. I done lost the battle already. So I would be wise to not live in insanity, which is to keep doing the same thing over expecting a different result. But here's the thing. I'm okay, you're okay. Meaning, all right, this is what I'm thinking. However, I'm a tattletale to God. You go to your corner, I go to my corner. You pray about it, I pray about it. Let's give each other love and grace while we figure this thing out. He's going to direct you. He's going to direct me. Is what I have learned, having done it the wrong way, is the most effective way. So now, as studies say, it takes 1,000 arguments before we really are at a place where we fully understand each other's needs, wants, desires, and the best way to go about resolving matters. Unfortunately, oftentimes, fellas, cannot and will not happen within that moment, and oftentimes not even in the day. But if this person is aligned, if this person has the right heart and spirit, if this person has the real and right intention as it relates to you in the relationship, you cross over into the promised land, which is where the two of you learn to flourish together. But it's going to be hard, and it's not going to be easy. And so what that means is you begin with the end in mind, which is, why are we in this relationship? If I know that you are my purpose partner, I am your purpose partner. Your job is to help me become the best version of me. My job is to help you become the best version of you. And we are building a family, a community, a legacy that is rooted in doing the work that God sent me to do, you to do, us to do, our family to do. Then guess what? I'm going to give the relationship, I'm going to give my partner the respect and the space to understand that it's going to be okay. We're going to figure this out, baby. Like, we're going to press through. Why? Because failure ain't an option. Because what God has for me, what God has for you is too important for this one matter. Because every obstacle is literally an opportunity. What I've noticed is when two partners operate in egoless pride, where we place it on God, is you actually end up being better when you rebuild it. Meaning you end up better in the relationship when you rebuild through that disagreement or misunderstanding. The relationship is even stronger. And yet that is the ultimate process of how great things are built. It's built with patience. It's built through time. Case in point, I'm an exotic car guy. A Rolls Royce. It takes 6 weeks to paint a Rolls Royce. It takes 6 months to produce or manufacture the Rolls Royce. That is the very reason why it is highly coveted and highly valued. Why? Because great things take time. And guess what? A Rolls Royce is mostly hand built. Why? Because that level of craftsmanship makes the car able to withstand the most difficult circumstances throughout the life of that vehicle. So it too is with a relationship. So what we've learned at this point is that every relationship, the easy phase is the honeymoon phase, right? The real opportunity is when we move to the second phase, which is learning how to fight fair, because it is through 1,000 arguments, and it's through letting go of ego and pride, right? And being selfless with one another, that we ultimately are able to rebuild bigger and better. Which now leads us to the great opportunity that is the promised land, which is where we can now flourish. Why? Because I let go of my ego and pride. You let go of your ego and pride. Why? Because you focused on the bigger mission and vision, which is purpose, which is to be honorable and pleasing to God, which is to honor him in everything we do, which is our real estate development projects, our business, our relationship, our parenting, who we are as friends, who we are as siblings, who we are as children to our family, or children to our parents, I should say. Because again, great things take patience. Great things take time. And so with that being said, I want to invite you to become a part of Developer Nation. Click the link in the description, wherein we will partner with you. We will educate you. We will equip you in terms of how to do large and small scale real estate development. We'll even, assuming your project is viable and feasible, allow you the opportunity through our partnership to pitch the project to our capital partners in order to do rinse and repeat projects wherein we can build generational wealth as a community, as a family, to benefit our children's children. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and as always, all things work together for the good of those that love God and are called according to his purpose. I will see you in the next episode.